Another thought that can be put into the teaching form is the fact that atheism is just another form of religion, in the sense that religion is belief in something other than God in a dogmatic way. Atheism is just like that.
Ugh, not this shit again. First of all, that's not an accurate description of atheism. Second, why do theists keep trying to bring this up? What do they think it's going to accomplish? It just seems like such a silly topic, yet they keep spouting it like it's somehow the best gotcha ever. Let's do this. Greetings, fellow space travelers. BionicDance here. So, once again, it's the old atheism is a religion chestnut. And while you'd think we'd seen and heard it all, there's a few doozies in this particular video.
Because atheism is not true, it cannot be proved by the Spirit of God, because obviously the Spirit of God would not inform anyone that He doesn't exist.
Wait, what? Atheism cannot be proved by the Spirit of God? Well, duh. If atheism is true, then the Spirit of God doesn't exist. What is this point supposed to mean? It makes no sense. And if something cannot be proved to be true, that doesn't mean it isn't. There are a lot of things that weren't proved for a very long time, yet they didn't only become true after they were discovered. Again, this argument makes no sense.
The Spirit of God is there to teach us, to show us, to reveal to us who He is, what He's done, and who we are to Him.
If that's the case, then He's chosen a very unproductive, roundabout way of doing it, presenting us with a book that has lots of disprovable claims written thousands of years ago, and then demanding we have faith instead of evidence for His existence, and then threatening us with hell if we don't believe without that evidence. Humans have come up with better systems than that for teaching people. You'd think a God could do better than appeal to our emotions like that.
So the atheist mocks and points the finger and says, you just believe in a book full of fairy tales. And so I say, why is that? And they say, well, it's a book. You haven't figured it out yourself. You haven't looked and discovered and seen. But you can ask the same thing of the atheist. Why does he believe what he believes? Did he go and discover these facts for himself? Did he discover that the world was created the way he says it was, that life came about the way he says it came about?
And here's the problem once again. The theist seems to run atheism through this filter in their mind, one that has already come to the conclusion that atheism is a religion, like theirs. But that's simply not the case. There is no atheist dogma about how the universe came to be. Atheism is just the lack of belief in a God, for any reason and to any degree. All that it would take to be an atheist is to hear a religious claim and go, that seems awfully silly, I don't believe it. They don't have to have an alternative idea to fill the gap in order to reject yours. Heck, it doesn't even require that much. Having never heard of religion in the first place, and thus not believing in a God, is all it takes to make someone an atheist. An atheist is just a non-believer. Everything else is extra. But okay, let's look at the atheists who do have an alternative hypothesis for the origin of the universe. Actually, a lot of people have made great strides through investigation of facts to discover the origins of life, the universe, and everything. And not all of them have been atheists. By contrast, theists still demand faith instead of presenting similar findings.
No, he read it in a book. He's trusted these men, these people, these organizations, these scientists, these dogmatic organizations and think tanks that decree these things, and he's looked at it and said, I agree with that. I'm a thinker just like them.
First of all, this sounds like a conspiracy theory, talking about these men, these organizations who decree things. This displays a fundamental ignorance of how science works. You see, there's a process called peer review, where a scientist's findings are run through vigorous testing by others in order to check for errors to verify the conclusion's validity. Nobody decrees anything. Every scrap is checked and rechecked. And everything in science books is checkable by anybody. That's why we can trust them, because if they're wrong, we can find out all on our own. If a scientist didn't trust their own work, they wouldn't let it be published, lest they look like a fool when shown to have failed. By contrast, no holy book has gone through this kind of testing and passed. We cannot trust its claims the way we can with a book of science.
They're just as religious as anyone. I'm not saying religion is good, not in that sense, because we should all get it from the original source, the creator, the great cause, God himself.
But if such a creature doesn't exist, where do we get knowledge? I'll tell you where. Investigation, exploration, testing, retesting, double-blind testing, lather, rinse, repeat. And given that this creator of yours doesn't seem to feel the need to hold the occasional university lecture or press conference, even if religion is true, we have only ourselves to rely on because, let's face it, your holy book doesn't have a lot to say about genetics, physics, or data management. Like it or not, we're on our own.
And he will tell you. That's what his word says, and that's what I've found to be true, and I believe anyone would find it to be true if they simply asked him. But they got to come with him with all their heart, like his word says as well. You can say that's circular, but until you tried it, you can't really say that you've considered it, because they consider science on science's terms. Science says, blot out your own mind and believe this book.
I find it necessary to use that irony meter way, way too often. I challenge this guy. I challenge any theist. I challenge anybody to find me where science tells us to just believe in a book and to turn off our minds. Because this is a fundamental misunderstanding of science. Another example of that filter through which theists run what they hear that isn't their own worldview. The scientific method is as such. Observe, question, research, hypothesize, experiment, test, draw conclusions, and report your results. The entire goal is to check our ideas and make sure they're right. The idea is to eliminate mere belief and replace it with reasonable conclusions based on checkable data. This is not in any way compatible with the idea of believing blindly in a book.
So I just want to make the point that that's just as religious. Atheism, science, secularism, it's just as religious as any religion. But freedom from religion, secular or otherwise, can only be had when you seek knowledge that comes from the source of all knowledge, and that is God, and God alone.
You can't be secular unless you've discovered a God exists. Is that really what this guy is saying? Because if that's what he's saying, I have to ask. They don't have bike helmet laws where he lives, do they? Yeesh. Until next time, fellow space travelers, this is BionicDance saying don't run on automatic. Instead, please, think.
Even YouTubers need Ferraris. Please donate on Patreon.
Hey, this is a nice computer you got over here. Be a shame you didn't subscribe to BionicDance. I'd hate for something bad to happen to it.